First of all, a sad note here, on behalf of the Poetry Circle and Limerick Writers Centre, we'd like to extend condolences to the family of Sheila O'Connor, who sadly left us yesterday. Sheila was a very good friend of Limerick and subscribed to a lot of charitable ventures and cultural ventures in this town. Anyway, welcome everybody to this Poetry Circle event. 3 poets reading their poetry in association with Limerick Writers Centre. Tonight we present Richard W. Halperin, Sheila Fitzpatrick O'Donnell and Breda Spaight, plus the open mic after the guest readers. We have 8 open mic readers booked in, so depending on the time we may or may not have room for others to read. And listen carefully now, each open mic reader is reminded that 1 or 2 poems is sufficient to read. Please keep them to a reasonable length. Otherwise, Neil ungated steel hand will remove you from the ceremonies from the stage. The crane is outside there at the moment. I'd like to remind you that books by our guest readers are available for purchase at the back of the room. First up, I'd like to call on Sheila Fitzpatrick O'Donnell. Sheila Fitzpatrick O'Donnell is a native of Limerick City, now living in Shannagold in County Limerick. She comes from a long line of poets, storytellers. Her late mother, known as Poetic, encouraged her to pick up the pen. Her work has been published in many anthologies in Ireland and abroad. Her collection, Where I'm From, was published by Revival Press in May 2023. Sheila Fitzpatrick O'Donnell.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Dominic. I was just thinking about Sheila O'Connor myself. I just couldn't stop crying last night when I heard the news. I never cried for my mother, my brother, my father, any of my family. And I had a massive breakdown and I woke up this morning and I was crying again. So I think it's out of my system now. The book Where I'm From is a poetry form of my memoirs from age 7 to 18. So I read a little few snippets from that and I read a poem or 2 after that. Where I'm from. I'm from a place where the Catholic Church rules the roost. Physical punishment in school. The cursed sting of an angry nun's bottle. Here it is normal to be called stupid. Sig shears agus dún go bhéil. I'm from seizures of after-school tantrums, crying out for my mother's affection. I'm from a dark confession box, the act of contrition, in anima namor, agus an vig, agus an spirit near amen, and bless me, Father, for I have sinned. I am a 7-year-old little child, frightened. What sins do I have? I'm from giving a chicken penny for the poor black babies in Africa, and from the comfort of Auntie Peggy's kitchen, playing house, dressing up paper doll cutouts, making little outfits for the blonde Cindy doll my mother got with the green shield stamps. I'm from Mrs. Maloney's corner sweet shop, a pennyworth of caramels, black jacks, mock fags, lucky bags. I'm from scorching hot summers, weaving daisy chains with Maureen and Matilda O'Doherty above in the halting site, cartwheeling along the high grass over in the yellow buttercupped field, rolling with laughter down the bumpy grassy hill. The sweet smell of stacked up hay and swinging from the shafts of the green barrel-topped wagons, campfire tea, picnics above in the bleach. I'm from a rainy day's poker-faced card game, the bullseye challenge of a dartboard, the crowned king of a checkered draft board, and the Salesians Convent Sunday School, playing basketball and threescore with the nuns who tried to convert me, listening to stories of St. Don Bosco, St. Martin, and the simple little way of my favourite, St. Therese of the Child Jesus. I'm from my nana's house, the big messenger magazine, large wooden framed holy pictures, and where an oak crucifix hangs on the parlour wall above her bed, her precious blood rosary beads and prayer book snug under her feather pillow. I'm from long avenues of large families. We all have nicknames here. In our house, they call me Witchy Poo. I'm from a Saturday scrub in a steel bathtub with the smell of carbolic and sunlight soap. I'm from the best of streetwise kids who always look out for each other, ducking into the Carlton Picture Hall to watch the Bond films and westerns, ducking onto the train to Dublin, having a great laugh at the zoo, spending the borrowed single shillings we robbed from the gas meter, and coppers from the Tropery box and charity walk money. I'm from a sideways squint of a dubious teacher, amused by my antics, giving me 100 lines to be signed by my father. I must not let our dog Mona chew up the charity walk ticket book. Okay. I'm from the production line of a busy factory floor, building smoke alarms for EI Electronics, working all the overtime, 7 days a week. I'm earning good money here. I am loaded. A risk taker at the age of 16, a one-way ticket on an Aer Lingus flight from Shannon Airport all the way to Birmingham, with the promise of my very own single bed, full of adventure, exuberance and fearlessness. I'm staying for good with my cousin Deborah. I am homesick to a painful degree, but I will stick with it. Just 3 days into my venture, and I'm from a heart-taken to heartbroken telegram where time stops still. The tragic news of my brother Gerard's death carries me all the way back home to Ireland, way up in the clouds, travelling alone, with a knot in my gut and a lump in my throat, afraid to cry. I fight back the tears. There is a big black cloud of gloom over our house. It is packed with Gerard's pals, cousins and neighbours. Mammy is heavily sedated on the couch, ashen-faced, heartache in her blank, distant stare, extreme sadness everywhere. I am from upstairs on the back seat of a double-decker bus, a pull from the butt of a major cigarette, having the crack with the pals. I have made my mark with the scribble of a permanent marker. SF was here, the 1st of the 10th, 78. I'm barred from the number 3 bus. I walk home from the Roxborough swimming pool, chatting with my pal Eugene. I am from the blur of a hospital bed, victim of a violent attack, mistaken identity by 4 big strong men. I'm 16, just the slip of a girl, traumatised. A miracle to have survived the full force wallop of a baton into the side of my head, knocked out cold on the footpath. The smell of Guinness from my poor father's breath, his warm teardrops streaming with my blood while nursing my stitched up skull. He swears to God he'll fucking kill the bastards who did this. I never saw my father cry. I feel guilty and ashamed. I turn my shaved head away, press my face deep into the blood-stained pillow, pretend I'm sleeping. My heart's doing 90. Now, I'm from when the love of mine joins the army. He is now a crew-cut, spit-bull and polished soldier, meticulously turned out in his brass-buttoned uniform. Now stationed in Clonmel. Where I'm from, sex and contraception is taboo. My fella swears he learned all about sex in the army. He shows me the condoms. I am mortified. Seamus O'Donnell, you're very dirty. I grabbed him from his hand, throwed him down the shore hole. He is in a red, roaring rage of a fit, going on about the trouble he had in getting them. At just 17, I'm from the shame of a teenage pregnancy, the threat of a mother and baby home. I'm in big trouble, a child expecting a child, terrified. What will my mother and father do? What will the priest say? My mind is uneasy, so I come up with a plan. Well, if the angel of the Lord declared unto Mary, and she conceived, but no, I am a stupid, dirty, lying bitch. Where I'm from is full of judgmental people. So I'm from a shotgun wedding, a barrel and tab hoolie in my mother's kitchen that goes on for weeks on ends, yahoos and around the house and mind the dresser. I'm from a premature labour, my very own live doll, all snuggled up in pink, an innocent child born into the Catholic cult. Where I'm from, I'm coming from a place where everything is a sin. Now, I'll read a poem to you. I'm going to read the first poem for Sinead O'Connor because, sorry about this now. Indigo Child. I think the mic is a bit funny, is it?
Just stand and
I just do it this way. Indigo Child. I ran all the way back the raw stretch of the road. Barefooted, I ran, as far away from this prison of humanity. Black pebbled tarmac cutting deep into the soles of my feet. On the verge of a breakdown, took a turn at the crossroads, crossed the humpback bridge, where the ploughed fields of my childhood beckoned to me. Without hesitation, I leapt over brambled hedgerows, yellow gorse, bog and clumps of spike rushes, my heart thumping. I ran after myself, past stone-wall fields of grazing cows, met with the hungry grass, my whole body shaking, bare feet bleeding on its lime green aura, traced my bloodline, caught a glimpse of forgotten people in the mirror of a wishing well. My blood warms to the vulture of an ancient Gaelic, welcoming me back to the fort of my tribe. Here, in this ring of solitude, I dismantle my fears, reclaim my identity, and cleansed by the energy of the blue moon, I am an indigo child, bonding with my Mother Earth. Aware of her heartbeat, I stretch my muscles, climb under a blanket of amber leaves, and in the fetal position, feeding from her root cells, my heart flutters in the uterus of the white thorn. Up the skins. The lens of memory transfers me back to those faded denim days of the 70s, where I am a boot girl, hanging around with the Ballabais in our black bomber jackets, Wrangler jeans turned up to our shins, showing off our high oxblood dots and red socks, chewing Wrigley spearmint gum, blowing bubbles, smoking the major, and having the slag with the lads at the corner of the street. Under the lamp of Mason's pole, I am a tattoo artist with my gammy needle, injecting Indian ink into the skin of my blood brothers. Drawing attention to ourselves, we wear Boston marks like bruises, Mohegans proud as peacocks, and slogans that up the IRA, skinheads rule, OK. Because we are the hard nuts of the 70s, with not a scrap of sense between us, we sing AG, AGR, AGRO, agro, and shout 1, 2, 3, 4, listen to the skinheads roar, we want our hair back. Hold on, It's my love poem from Mr. William Butler Yeats. Pool Park. Here there is richness, majestic growth. Mesmerised I roamed the turf you trod. Inscriptions carved on bark of trunk, where copper leaves shroud your shrine. The ghosts of scholars circle your sacred throne. Your unseen presence is a glint of distant sunlight. A gentle breeze swirls shivers through the leaves and moves along my spine. You sowed the seed that reawakened the poetic thoughts which haunt my craving mind. Although you are far beyond my reach, your poetry latches to my soul and oils the rusted hinges of my heart. This is for my brother, I suppose, and other people who jumped into the river. He didn't jump in, he was drowned, but I was in Ballybunion on Christmas one year, and this came out of my, what happened? Requiem for a Fisherman. Here on Ballybunion beach, where the ruins of a castle clings to a cliff, I search for you. The rain spills and a mist of vapour blurs my vision. I am pulled back to a place where you first sailed off, the mossy bend at the bottom of Barrack Lane, in your angling cot, facing the island bank. A limestone harbour, your home base, long gone. Though you knew the ropes, you always said, never trust the sea. Be white to her. She can be a thundering scourge of a whore, who will challenge, cheat and torment you. The sea has no conscience. When in a rage, she would take you in a flash, like a spit of venom from a jealous tongue. Never trust her. She sings her own shanty. Though you love to sail, I often heard how you curse the current, and all I can hear today is an eruption of angry waves, the harsh whistle of a full-force gale, the sudden flap of gull wings, and all I can see is the grey swell of the ocean's pouting lips, a spew of faded memories, all washed out. I fish for the whys and the what-ifs, drag my feet and wade along the soggy sand. I catch a glimpse of you, floating above the mist. I turn my back and you are gone. But in the wish of unspoken words, I am somehow reassured that you can hear me. That you can hear me from the deep hull of the ocean seabed, where your secrets now lie sleeping, so far away, but yet so near. If Jesus was around today, and Damon put this into me with a little song. If Jesus was around today, he'd be hanging out with me, dressed in his charity shop's finest, grey night hoodie, ripped Levi jeans, laced up docks and gay pride socks. He'd be the coolest kid on the block. He would call around to chill out in the retro camper van, eat sourdough bread, sip the best of Aldi wine, taking his time. He would rehearse a rap, sway to the rhythm of each seductive lyric. If Jesus was around today, he would drive along the wild Atlantic way, cool as a summer breeze, living our best lives together, adventurous, camping out above the rugged cliffs of Ballybunion, spinning yarns around the campfire with a spritz of sea salt in the tangles of our dreadlocked hair. Share a dream, sleeping under the starlit sky, and at the cusp of dawn, a dip in the sea, making our mark in the ripples of the sand, hand in hand, gallivanting the full stretch of the beach. Then, a long relaxing soak in a seaweed bath. If Jesus was around today, he'd be a Divil McClear, the life and soul of social media. He'd share the immediacy of a prayer, from morn to night, a holy fright. If Jesus was around today, his mantra would be take life easy, meander through it, love it, live it, as if there is no tomorrow. If Jesus was around today, he'd be the coolest dude of them all. To the bitter end, no false pretense, no false pretense. Okay, this is for my daughter, Carrie. I don't know if she's here yet, but anyway. This could have been you. I'm thinking of the hundreds of babies in the Bansecure that were, I'm getting the doubt, that were found in the septic tank. So this could have been you, for Carrie. 17, a child expecting a child. What have I done? What will Mammy and Daddy say? What will the priest do? Oh God, I am very bad. I bless myself with holy water. The Angelus bells are ringing out, and I am ashamed, choking back my tears, tormented, with a pounding headache blocked inside. I have no one to talk to. Who can I trust to keep this secret? My mind is uneasy, so I plan on running away. I purchased the Limerick Leader in search of help. Searched the adverts, nothing. Where can I find a mother and baby home? How will I get there? How naive was I back then to think that I could keep you hiding in my womb? And to run away to a mother and baby home, just vanish? To think that I could rear you on my own, keep you safe, find a job, make a home. To think no one would miss me, but your teenage daddy, just 16 then, refused to let us go. 'Tis my child too, he sobbed, teardrops flowing down his baby face. He held my hand, and on bended knee he pleaded, please, please marry me. I told him no, just fucking go. And kicking up a fuss, he told our guilty sin. Concealed for 6 long months, just spread like fire around the town. Our parents said, sure, it wouldn't be a sin if you just got married. So we got to name you, to keep and hold you. Took you home all snuggled up in pink, placed you in the Moses basket tucked inside a comfy cozy toes, in the alcove safe and sound, by the red coal blazing fire. There, our premature little titch, you slept and thrived. And I was safe to learn and make my own mistakes outside those stone-cold convent walls. Far away from starched-faced nuns with holy rosary beads, who knelt, adored and prayed before the Blessed Virgin Mother, who each day punished girls in labour, who washed and scrubbed the holy vestment stains, drenched in beads of sweat. The fear of God curled in swollen bellies, as they were called sinners, whores and dirty trollops, brand-named mother and bastard, insults from those very holy nuns, the ones who claim to be the brides of Christ.
Thank you very much, Sheila. Irish-American poet Richard W. Halperin's poems are published by Salmon Cliffs and Moore and by Lapwing Belfast. Salmon has selected a new poems for autumn 2023. It will draw upon poems from Mr. Halperin's 4 Salmon and 16 Lapwing collections on the occasion of his 80th birthday. Ladies and gentlemen, Richard W. Halperin.
Thank you, Dominic. Thank you. I'm just going to speak like this. Is that all right?
Yeah.
We don't want. We love you, but you're very naughty. I wasn't going to read from this because I don't like reading from this, but 2 poems were suggested to me inadvertently. So let's start with them. Fondly fat-kneed Jenny Margaret in memoriam. The old lady on the street carrying 2 shopping bags, not who is she, or what is she carrying, rather is she me. One needn't be reborn to have other lives. This is all of them now. Thoughts at 4 in the morning. Simply just fell, but maybe this is a prosthesis. Noon. I'm on the street. I may be the old lady. She totes her bags. Cassiopeia gets varicose veins. My legs hurt. Do people who kill know they are committing suicide, or do they have to wait to die to find that out? Some, not I, can feel this all the time. When I was 6 and she 4, we were sitting on a stone fence on the strand at Ballycastle, sea, sun, spray. She wearing plum, I plum. What would you like most in the world, I asked. Someone to scratch my back, she said. She must have already been very close to heaven. So then the other surprise one, if there is a surprise, suggested by, yes, it's a shorty, wall of glass. Marcel Marceau's bip walks into a wall of glass, invisible. He cannot see it, he cannot move it, he falls on his hands and knees, trying to lift it. He feels around for a door in it. He runs his hands all around it. Everyone can see him doing it. There he is. If one cannot relate to this, there is no point in reading poetry. So you're my clock, so we can't put you away. We have 17 minutes left. That makes 2020. Now, Dominic likes brand new poems. Sometimes. So here's one written, I'm not saying it to cover myself, but I just did cover myself because the ink is still wet. Oval Moon, Dublin. This was written 4 or 5 days ago. I am in an octagonal Georgian room. A perfect oval mirror is on the wall. The furniture, wood, tables, sideboard, is dark. Carpet beige and grey. More coffee? Someone pours it out into a Limoges cup. So France as well. This is what peace, money, taste, and neutrality can be. The neutrality of an elegant hotel in an interval of time and place without torment. The servers are young. When they stand apart, they joke lightly, always among themselves. They have come here from their respective countries to escape torment. I leave these words as is. A perfect oval mirror is a mirror. It can neither speak nor help. It calms me because it is hung so high near the egg and dart ceiling that I cannot see myself in it. On a bench, we would sit on a bench at evening by the long lawn which is the Avenue de Breteuil, as the sun's glare transfigured this window and that on the facing apartment buildings. You sensed, I too, that in a year there might be only one of us on that bench. We never cared if, on the last day, everything we ever did or said would be shouted from the rooftops. We never cared about noise. We sensed the still small voice, which is never not there until the eyes turn dark as in Homer. We won the only lotto that counts, you said. That was a go. It takes a while to say certain things. Hateful things. I read a list of them in a book written by, say, Shonagon 1,000 years ago. They are not hateful, they are charming because of her writing. Is that all? Time washed over them like water. Anger's stones smoothed. Time clears. Is Is there need for forgiveness? I do not know if near the end she forgave. Are the great they, watchers and at sometimes interferers, merciful or simply fastidious? What then of hateful things? As everything dissolves toward the end, a woman writes from a palace which was scarcely there when it was there. She has given us with her ink and brush something with which to get through Tuesday. Next poem is called Envoi, I call it. Death and again death. Do not worry, the horse knows the way home. Good art is a balm. It is also a pull. Something is happening. Jane Austen or the sirens. I have to be tied to the mast when I think of any sentence of Emma. Nathaniel under the fig tree, the woman at the well, Philip and the Ethiopian eunuch. If Terry Murray had never written, the world would be poorer for it. The horse knows the way home. A thing of beauty. One is always 7 years old, so this one is going to be long. When you know how to write, and everybody in this room does, it's like the Siegfried myth. He kills the dragon, he tastes the blood, and all of a sudden he can hear what the bird is saying. If you write, it's a very humbling thing. You look at Keats, you look at Yeats, you look at, and you feel like throwing everything out the window because how did they do it? Because you know what it means. So, A Thing of Beauty is a joy forever, and I was completely wiped out at 80 and a half years old. And this thing came, dedicated to two friends, Scott Thornley and Shirley Blumberg. Quote, some shape of beauty moves away the pull from our dark spirits. John Keats, Endymion, Tennymoth, 10 April 1818. My parents had in common before their divorce and after a love of beauty. In her case, visual art, in his case, classical music. In both their cases, wonderful literature. These pull away the pall from me, thank God. My wife had that. My friends have that. So many strangers have that, next to whom I sit in concert halls or stand next to in museums or leave cinemas with. The cloud of the beautiful still there when we find ourselves out on the street again. You just keep writing those beautiful poems, my friend Raymond once told me when we were both face down in the borscht bowl over the latest senseless cruelty in the world. Everything, however small or brief or lopsided in the kingdom of beauty, is alive, kind, and assertive, as it points the way to get to one more second of life. Beauty finds you. To remember, as I have this morning, the opening lines of Endymion and Keats's wonderful human preface to it, does me good, saves my life again, and we'll skip why. Especially the preface, quote, the imagination of a boy is healthy, and mature imagination of a man is healthy, but there is a space of life between, in which the soul is in a ferment, the character undecided, the way of life uncertain, unquote. Keats thinks that he is in the in-between stage, that if he lives longer, he will reach imagination that is healthy and mature. My dear chap, no one does. Every day in my neighborhood in Paris, I pass the house unchanged as far as I can tell, with which Edith Wharton closes the Age of Innocence. Her protagonist, a middle-aged American man, has been invited to that house because his young years await him there. He decides not to enter. In Wharton, an entire novel can be written about decides. She did not admire Henry James for nothing. The man does not enter because his young years await him there. I must call this poem the Book of Ruth. Artists are in the grip of something. I'll end with a short and a long. Short. The Pickwick Papers. Outside my tent, the monsters are destroying again. Inside is the Bible and the Pickwick Papers. I must leave the tent to help my sisters and brothers. Deliver us from the evil one, because there most certainly is the evil one. Only God is good, the rest is incomprehensible. And then a longie. My mother's house. He to his mother's house private returned. That's the epigraph. I can still hear the thrilling voice of Irene Samuel, my Milton teacher at Hunter College, reading that line which closes Paradise Regained. Jesus, 4 temptations by Satan in the desert. Milton adds the 4th. Irene Samuel and Milton have helped guide my entire life. They make me know that in a world of lascivious cruelty, the artist goes forward alone, that great works of art like angels are messages, that they prompt me to take better actions. Jesus is not coming back from hell. I know what hell is. Who doesn't? He is coming back from the devil, which is not the same thing. The devil in Milton is just some chap, much smaller than his publicity would lead one to believe. Mischief. It is we who do actual evil. With time, I have come to know that I have been the means of that, whether I was conscious of it or not. The damage done remains. Is some of my subsequent suffering expiation for that? I hope so. My mother's house. I know how returning to it feels, and that the return must be private. There's something hilarious in having survived.
Telling it like it is, that was the incorrigible Richard W. Halperin. Breda of Spaight was in County Limerick. She was among the poets accepted to the Poetry Ireland Introduction Series and the Introductions reading at the Cork International Poetry Festival. Her work has appeared in Southward, Poetry Ireland Review, Ambit, Aesthetica and the North Irish issue. She was a featured poet in The Stinging Fly and The Interpreter's House. She has won the Boyle Arts Festival Poetry Prize and the Doolin Poetry Prize 2020. She was among the poets in the Best New British and Irish Poets 2018 Eyewear Anthology. Watching for the Hawk is a debut collection from Ireland House. Breda Spaight.
Thank you, Tom. So can everybody hear me?
Yes.
I think I'll take a leaf from Richard's book and dispense with this character there.
Yeah.
So, okay, so the title of the collection is Watching for the Hawk, but it could just as easily have been The Mother poems, or All About My Mother, because it turned out that all of the poems in the end that I did put together were all about my mother. there was a time in life when I used to say that my mother died when I was young. And then when I reached midlife, I used to say, well, you know, my mother died when she was young. And now that I'm a person in my 60s, I can look back and say we were both young at that time. So those then are the few memories that I have of her. And so obviously they came to the surface, and as I sat with them, they took on more and more significance. And one of the features that I noticed from the poems as they developed, that in one way or another, that they all in some way fed into the massive changes that were taking place in Ireland in the 60s. That is when I was coming of age. So the title then, Watching for the Hawk, was a job that I used to be given as a child. And it was usually around the springtime when the young chicks were out in the hen run. And the idea was that you were to, if you were out playing and you saw the hawk, you were to wave your hands and scream and roar and dance and do that and frighten off the hawk. So it became a metaphor for me in looking back at my mother and the changes that were about to come in her life. Watching for the hawk. I love him, I hate him. He hovers over the chicken run, his brown body tacked to the sky, buff underbelly streaked blackish, suddenly hanging there, peaceful as the holy dove. That fine bird enthralls me, and those yellow fluffy chicks wobbly on their yellow legs, yet something lethal in the air. I think of my mother, flour raining through her fingers, pinch of bread soda ground first between her palms, our daily bread seasoned by her body's salt. She prays to a priest's back on Sunday, while on the radio politicians discuss their economic plan. I leave her at the table, the lifelines of her palms obliterated again and again from the dough she needs. I view the scene as though watching for the hawk, my heart throbbing, the scream in my throat. My mother came from rural County Galway. She came from a farming background, and she married into a rural working class family in Limerick, and that is my home place. But it was never really my mother's home place, not at least while I experienced her living, because we were constantly going back to her home place, and she was quite a different person in that environment. And so there are quite a number of poems in the collection where we see me sort of strange in my mother's landscape, and my mother pretty much alienated in my landscape. The title of the poem I'm going to read is Going Home. She is going home, no longer truly ours. Even the light steals her. Skin a shade lighter, intensifying the black of her hair. Eyes alive in a scene of nibbling sheep. She times the journey to Miss Mass in Ennis, Crusheen and Gort. The Morris Minor glimmers through narrow streets as each town funnels into a landscape where hedgerows yield to dry stone walls, stippled rock reaped from tin-grassed fields. She turns to us, huge in her absence, as though we are supine and she is falling, falling. She licks her fingers to smoothen our hair, our smiles, Ahead now is her home place. The crooked row of cypress leilandi forms a windbreak to the southwest of the house. Turf brick part igloo home for dogs. The yard a muddle of hens, geese. Cautious cats sat like camels on windowsills. My mother's mid-stride feet in a nanosecond of flight on her run to the back door. Within, a puppet show. Her troupe takes her coat, kisses her, while we wonder at the pewter patina of windows, split coal black roof slates, puck belly pink coin stones, light's precise splendour keeping our mother close, as though it's our duty to bind ourselves to the place she loves. One of the most profound changes that came in Ireland during that period was that more and more children were now born in hospitals. Of my 4 siblings, the 3 eldest were born at home. Not that it was a trendy thing to do, it was because that is what was done. The last child was born in a hospital, and that was quite, I do remember it vividly. I was 9, and I do remember my mother speaking about it. But what was even more challenging for my mother was the arrival of the district nurse, because that being was also quite new in the Irish landscape at that particular time. And that was quite a clinical experience for my mother, because I do remember her telling me about my birth in the house and how Mrs. Hayes from over the road was there to give a hand and all of that. And so that's the background to this poem. Her last. My mother, 45, another child, opens the door to Nurse Begley. All smiles and too much pine air freshener. I had forgotten how beautiful her face is, rinsed with innocence, as though under a spell, and her hair like a moonlit lake, black with silver ripples. I notice when her voice becomes high-pitched, like she's about to sing or scream, talking about her bowels as though she shares the secret of her days when she does not get up, nights she ignores the baby's cry. Whatever life she had is over. Soda bread cooling on the window, nappies boiling in the pot. The story she tells of my birth in this house, how Mrs. Hayes from over the road was there to help. She talks and talks, stares long into Nurse Begley's face, her eyes wide as a swimmer's who realises they're out too far. I worry she'll choke mid-word, will clutch Nurse Begley and pull her down, curl into her like a child in the cooling rays of the sun. It's often said that there was no sex in Ireland before the Late Late Show, or was that gay porn? It's the same thing, I suppose, but really there was no sex in Ireland, I suppose, before television. And so the title of the next poem is What's in the Word, and that's on page 29 of the collection. And so by the time the reader would arrive at that, they would have encountered my mother's husband, my father, who can only be described as a dysfunctional parent. He was very much a dysfunctional husband. He was actually a good son, as I remember him. What's in a word? When my father says, she'll soon get enough of it, the words swirling from his mouth, skating over the thin ice of the kitchen, I look at you, your face furrowed by the black and white flicker of the television where a man and woman kiss. You buttoned up in a cardigan, tied in by an apron, the way a secret is tied down in the body, and suddenly sees your anger. I don't understand what my father has said. All I know is that suddenly the kitchen freezes. Your hair looks frost-slumped, your face white as sleet-dusted stone, your gaze like that of someone about to glaciate. For so long I have wanted you to grasp joy by the hand and swim through our lives. Now I sense that joy requires a medium, like how time stopped when the woman's lips met the man's lips. You say she doesn't love him. Your vowels clink in the womb like splintering crystal. A gleam of triumph wavers at the corners of your eyes. It's as though you dared to rob from my father. A cloudburst of words hail from his mouth. A rumble around one new word. He pronouncing the word slowly, perhaps unused to saying the word. Something, 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 something. The foreskin saga. His upper teeth sank into his lower lip as if to steady the F on the tongue, like a surgeon steadies the knife that envisions the wound. The droop of your mouth says that the word slapped you. Awakened, you are now in an Arctic region, an unexplored place that I've come to value as your woman rage. Opposite feelings crowd your face, a captive's fine facial gestures, lowly, exalted, impassive, hopeful. You communicate with me, caution me, alert me to examine what I see, but I don't know what I see. My father's mouth shut firm, as though he has said it all, and if he hears another word, is ready to say more. The title of the next poem is Night Walk with My Mother, and it's kind of more or less where I leave her. And there's usually a time, as I've seen since, with mothers and daughters, or not necessarily mothers and daughters, it can happen with mothers and sons as well, that the child becomes sort of a friend or a confidant to the parent, but really the child might not necessarily know what's really going on. So that was my situation in this particular experience. Night walk with my mother. She says, don't ever get married. If only I had my life to live all over. We see golden lamplit sitting rooms. She says, isn't the moon lovely? I never knew it could be so bright. We hear cats yowl ghostly in farmyards. She says, I need air. She mops her eyes with a hanky. She says, a man's heart is his own. It's the way they are, spoiled by mothers. Narrow weasels and humped rats cross our path. She says all sorts of things. She blows her nose. We bless ourselves passing the graveyard. If I hadn't had kids, if I could only drive, if there were more chances for us. She says, I need air. She says, don't ever get married. You know soon enough. We see trees, lace, passions tremble on the road. Don't say I didn't try to warn you. Mind your education. Stay away from them. Keep yourself pure. She says all sorts of things. Okay, so this is the final poem I'm going to read, and thank you very much for being so attentive. The quote that opens the novel, the collection, is from Sharon Owens, the American poet, and it's where she says, "Family is a mystery," and if anyone should know about family, it really is Sharon Owens. And so I think I may have cracked that mystery in this poem that I wrote. It's the title of it is Her Last Day, and you might think, oh my God, that sounds like such a really grim place to go to get sort of like solace in life, but really it's not with this distance of time. But on that particular day, I woke up and I really had this strong urge to go and visit her. Nobody had told us that our mother was terminally ill. As I pointed out earlier, my father was not a functioning parent, so we had never been brought to see her. So I decided, come hell or high water, I'm going to visit my mother. Her last day. When I searched for my mother's bicycle in the shed, I found it behind a pile of Hessian sacks, a wooden ladder minus numerous rungs, and a brown armchair from which yellow foam erupts. All this rubbish to shift, and I must go see my mother in hospital. I brake hard, rounding Power's Corner, free-wheel downhill from there to Rattle's Cross. The day blurs bold and warm in October light. As I push towards the humpback railway bridge, the back wheel goes flat. I'm so tired of being hungry, alone, aimless days and sleepless nights in a drunk's house. I kick the spokes. The hospital's heat tramples me as though I'm under Earth's skin. Turn left, up the stairs. Another left, up more stairs. A nurse with a blue clipboard tells me that visiting time is almost over. And then I walk down the ward to my mother in the last bed. Her body flat, asleep. I must sit, but the family at the next bed has her chair. She looks noble, the nasal cannula torque-like, the unruffled covers and pillows, her arms by her sides, and the tent of her feet. No Lucozade, no flowers, no cards. As I've seen on Marcus Welby MD, I tilt over and kiss her forehead. I never kissed her in my life. She wasn't that sort of mother. What I recall now is not her face or her breath's measure, but the shadow I cast. Its form like a cloak that broadened as I moved into a slot that held us both. Her tribe clamouring through molecules of smell from my glands, enveloping her in love for the day.